Professor, what a splendid outcome, isn't it? Oh, it is, it is. Congratulations, Professor Hairbrain. Mr. Naruhodo, Miss Susato, I am truly beside myself with gratitude. How can I ever thank you enough? I'm just glad it's all been cleared up, that you realize you were just caught up in a bad situation. Right now, you know, if I had that research grant money, I'd given the whole lot to you, every penny. Well, that's very kind, but I'm just a student, so... We don't need any financial reward. Your acquittal is more than enough. Oh dear, oh, what can I do? How about this? As a memento, the paper about my hypophysis is inside. Well, just as a memento then. Thank you. I've been wondering, Professor, what are you going to do now? Oh my, yes. What am I going to do? My hypothesis and my great machine lie in ruins. But still, it's been too long since I was last in London, so perhaps I will enjoy some sightseeing. I must explore the great exhibition whilst I'm here too, and see if new inspiration hits me. Oh yes, that's a wonderful idea. I can't allow that. Lord von Zieks, what are you doing in here? Baroque. I'm sorry you had to go through that, Albert. Well, if I'm honest, it was terrifying. You were like a grey demon behind your bench there, snarling down on your prey. You're one of the few true friends I have. I couldn't leave it to anybody else to handle the prosecution or the defense. Sorry? Or the defense? Did I just hear that right? I always knew that you had my best interest at heart, don't worry. How about you show me around while I'm here in town? It's been a long time since we left university. We have a lot to catch up on. Listen, Albert. In a few days, your acquittal will be made official. When that happens, you must head straight to Dover. I will accompany you. From there, you will cross the channel and make your way back to Germany. I've already purchased the tickets. But no, hold on a minute, Baroque. What about the great exhibition? This is the chance of a lifetime for me. I want to look around. No sightseeing, Albert. Give up on the idea. Sometimes it's hard to see any warmth in those eyes, Baroque. Lord von Zieks. What's all this about? A necessary precaution. Yes, I think I understand. You do? Well, Iris told me that when you met Lord von Zieks at his office some days ago, he asked how Mr. Natsume was doing. Yes, that's right. I remember being surprised at the time and thinking it was nice of him to ask. The point is, Mr. Natsume is still alive and well, even though it's been more than 6 months now since he stood trial with the Reaper as the prosecutor. Oh, you mean the Reaper's influence doesn't stretch overseas? Those in the Reaper's sights meet their ends days or sometimes months after their acquittal. That's been the pattern up to now. But of course, we know that both Mr. Natsume and Gina were completely innocent. True. And perhaps that governs the Reaper's actions. The truly innocent are spared. But I don't want to take any chances with a close personal friend. Baroque. Like the mustache Nipponese, this man should leave the country without delay. That's why I'm packing him off to Germany at once. Right. Does your French-shaped package get any say in it? Goodness, was this your intention all along then, Lord von Zieks? In court, where people think of him as the Reaper, this man seems absolutely merciless, and yet, sometimes I feel as though I don't understand him at all. It's time to go, Albert. Back to prison for the time being. Ah, yes, alright. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you so much for everything. Not at all, Professor. It was a pleasure getting to know you. Best wishes, Professor Hairbrain. Well, once the dust has settled, you must come and visit me in Germany. Anyway, goodbye for now. Now, my Nipponese friend. Oh, yes, I thought you would gone too. We have matters to discuss. Can you spare me some time? You want to talk with me? I will be waiting in the courtroom in 10 minutes. Well, that was strange. For some reason, I didn't get that sense of impending doom as he walked away this time. The enigma, Barak von Zieks. What does he want to discuss, I wonder? The answer awaits in the courtroom, I suppose. Here goes then. So, are you satisfied? You saved the Gilead scientist for a great injustice. Yes, I think so. I'm relieved, at least, that the man's innocence could be proven. Anyway, I imagine you've been wondering where my animosity towards your Nipponese comes from. Well, at first I thought you just didn't like me. I imagined you saw me as a pretentious child from an unimportant land who had no business being here. But now I think differently. You clearly know your ways. You clearly know our ways. So I would guess that some specific incident led to your thought-through dislike of my race. Will you tell me what happened, please? The professor. I thought I'd never hear that name in this courtroom again, to be honest. He took your brother's life. Clint. My brother was Clint von Zieks. 16 years ago, when I was still just in my teens, he was already the director of prosecutions and a key member of the judiciary. I looked up to him. He was everything I aspired to be. He was involved in the establishment of justice systems in foreign countries as well. There were exchange programs between Britain and other nations then too, to share knowledge and ideas. As part of one of those programs, 3 judicial students came to Britain from your homeland, the Empire of Japan. If it was 16 years ago, then one of them could have been my father. Of course, I remember Dr. Mikotoba well. I had no idea. I was a minor at the time, training at the prosecutor's office. One day, Clint introduced me to the 3 visiting Nipponese. So you've actually met my father? He and his colleagues were polite and amicable. They were adept at their work and exacting in their standards. Also, ich weiß ja, dass die Judge ein Teil davon war, ich habe leider den Namen vom Richter vergessen. Dann Mikotoba war der zweite. Und wird er mir jetzt gleich sagen, dass der Professor der dritte war? Also dieser Serienmörder. That was my first encounter with the Nipponese spirit and it made a very great impression upon me. But 6 years later, that's when it happened. The investigation was going nowhere. There were no suspects even, just an ever-growing list of victims. And in the end, my brother became one of them. The last, in fact, before the case was finally resolved. I am so sorry, Lord von Zieks. Truly. Clint was always ready to put his life on the line for justice anyway, so he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He lost his life to the killer, but it was his victory in the end. For me personally, though, it was a great loss. I felt myself in a very dark place indeed. When I finally found out the killer's identity, the reason why no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. He'd been hiding in plain sight all the time. In plain sight? Are you aware of political events 10 years ago? It was a period of extremely sensitive diplomacy between the British and Japanese empires. A new treaty was being forged, I think. Correct. The Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation was being concluded. The leaders of both countries were deep in extensive political discussion. Which is why this particular killer's appearance in court was conducted as a closed trial. If the British public had known the identity of the killer, not only would the treaty have been in jeopardy, but our two nations could very well have ended up at war. What? A war between Britain and Japan? But that would mean... Oh my, you mean to say the professor was...
Today, 審理が終わった時、時が来た。そう思った。貴公たちがこの恐るべき殺人鬼と対面する時がな。あの老人形の館の女主人から仮面の鍵を借り受けた。その目でしかと確かめるがいい。10年前の真実。
これがプロフェッサーの正体。
その通り。
今まで考えたこともありませんでした。英国犯罪史上最悪の事件、その殺人鬼の正体が日本人だったなんて。
待ってください。この面影、どこかで見たことがある。そんな気がいたします。
父上。父上。あ、葬儀。僕の親友、麻生木一馬。1年の時を経て今、すべての記憶を取り戻して。目の前に立っていた。
なるほど。
久しぶりだな、友よ。
カズマ様。
味方は法務女子。長い間ご苦労だった。礼を言う。私の代わりに友をここに導いてくれた。
カズマ様。
やっぱり生きていたんだな、麻生木。
貴様にも礼を言わねばならない。何しろそいつを守ってくれたのだからな。
麻生木の家に代々伝わる名刀、カルマ。日 本を出発するとき、あいつが身に帯びていた。日本人の魂であり、いつもそばに置いておきたいと。そしてあの事件が起こって、僕は千里さんからこの刀を託されたんだ。お前が残した思いとともに。こいつがあると、いつもお前が見守ってくれている気がしていた。
やっとたどり着きました、父上。
父上、まさかお前知っていたのか。その面影だけど、とても信じられない。殺人鬼の正体が麻生木一馬の父だったなんて。
カズマ様。
なるほど。貴様と積もる話はあるが、今はその時ではない。また会おう。
麻生木一馬は僕たちを残して法廷から出て行った。
What the fuck? What the fuck? Ist gerade alles, was mir zu dem einfällt, was gerade passiert ist. Holy shit. Erstmal, das war sehr emotional. Auch für mich. Ich habe sehr mitgefühlt mit Ryunosuke, Susato und Kazuma, dass die sich endlich wieder gesehen haben. Das war sehr, sehr rührend. Ein sehr schöner Moment. Und der absolute What the fuck Moment. Also ich meine, es war ja dann irgendwann sehr offensichtlich, dass es wirklich Kazuma ist. Also das war jetzt nicht mehr so diese Überraschung für mich. Es war dann nur dieses, es ist so toll, dass er sich wieder erinnert und dass sie sich wiedersehen. Aber absoluter What the fuck Moment war, dass der Professor der Vater von Kazuma ist. Wow. Also okay. Damit habe ich absolut nicht gerechnet. Ja, also dass ich mir jetzt dann denken konnte, als Van Zieks uns da hingerufen hat und dann, okay, dann ist das wahrscheinlich ein Japaner gewesen. Aber dann, also, dass die Bombe da droppt, okay, wow. Das hat mich jetzt überrascht. Und jetzt frage ich mich auch, wie das jetzt weitergehen wird. Also, was da jetzt noch kommt. So, he is the living after image of the man who took my brother's life, is he? Yes, Kazuma Sogi, my best friend. 3 months ago, when Lord Stronghold introduced us, I had an inkling there was something there. Some connection. Ich glaube ja, das muss ja auch irgendwas mit dieser Liste zu tun haben, oder? Also die Liste muss doch auch mit dem Fall irgendwie in Verbindung stehen. Die wir am Ende vom ersten Teil gefunden hatten. But why did Lord Strongheart do that? Why did he make Kazuma Lord von Sieg's apprentice? And when he was suffering amnesia too? The man was apprehended, even executed. But his legacy just won't die. That's the sad truth. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I thank you for meeting with me as I asked. "10 years ago, my grandmother took me to the railway station. We were there to meet my father from the train. For me, it was the first time I'd ever seen him." Poor Susato-san. All this is tied up with painful memories for her too. She's never talked about this with me before though. It took time to adjust to having father around, but just when I was starting to get used to it, he called me into his study one day. He told me that a great friend of his had passed away in London, and that the friend had left behind a son. A boy, 7 years my senior. Father told me the boy had made a promise to his late father, so he was studying to become a defense lawyer. I wanted to help, so I studied to become a qualified judicial assistant. As I'm sure you've worked out, that young man's name was Kazuma Asogi. So you see, that's how he and I met.
親友は束の間僕たちの前に姿を現して再び消えた。そしてその瞬間、止まっていた時は動き出す。巨大な運命の車輪が回り始める。きしむような音を聞いた気がした。それは確かに何かが始まり、何かが終わるきっかけだった。
The End. Und ein Achievement bekommen, The Demasking. Ja, das Demaskieren. Ja, ich habe keine Ahnung, was ich sagen soll. Ich habe alles gesagt, was es zu sagen gibt. Ich bin baff. Also, wow. Ich habe damit nicht gerechnet, dass hinter der Maske das Gesicht von Kazumas Vater steckt. Also, wow. Wahnsinn. Okay, ich weiß wirklich nicht, was ich dazu sagen soll, außer what the fuck. War eine mega Überraschung. Ich bin unfassbar gespannt, wie das alles weitergeht, wie das alles zusammenhängt. Also ich bin mir sehr sicher, wir kommen ja dann wieder, so ein großes Ganzes wird ja wieder am Ende auf uns zukommen. Und ich bin sehr gespannt. Ich kann jetzt noch nicht die ganzen Fäden zusammenfügen, noch nicht. Und weiß noch nicht genau, wie die Liste zusammenhängt, warum Kazumas Name, also warum Asogi auf der Liste steht. Und es ist so vieles. Ich kann da jetzt auch gerade gar nicht klar denken. Aber ich bin gespannt, wie dann diese ganze Connection dann, wie das alles zusammenhängt, was noch passieren wird. Ich hoffe, wir werden demnächst auch weiter mit Kazuma reden, dass er uns, ja, dass wir mehr reden können, mehr Zeit haben. Aber gucken wir mal, wie das Ganze weitergeht. Ich werde jetzt hier erstmal einen Cut machen. Ich bedanke mich ganz herzlich fürs Zusehen. Hoffe, ihr hattet Spaß. Und wenn ihr mögt, sehen wir uns sehr, sehr gerne im nächsten Part wieder. Bis dahin. Ciao.